Hello and welcome to Over the Wall, a China Dota podcast featuring me, DOTA, aka Mr. Big Jams, and LeonArthur, talking all about the most recent goings on in Chinese Dota over the past couple of months. LeonArthur, how are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. I feel like it's been a while since we talked, so pretty excited to be back here to talk about some Chinese dots with you.
Yeah, a lot has happened over the last couple of months. We've unfortunately, because of the way it's been scheduled, we were going to kind of almost do it throughout the DPC, but we've almost missed the entire DPC. So we've got quite a lot to summarise here.
Yeah.
So let's get on with it, so we're not having people listen to a 2 hour episode. We're almost at the end now of
hmm
Chinese DPC. We have 3 more games coming in 3 days, but the standings to me look pretty set. What would be the if you were to summarize, if people haven't had a chance to watch it, what would be kind of the highlights that you'd bring out?
I would say things are going. Some things are going as expectations. Some are not. Some are not. I would say PSG LDG definitely looking super strong right now. I think this is probably in our expectation. It's just that people might think, all right, is this L? We all know that LGD are going to be strong, but how strong they will be. And yeah, they're 6-0 right now, so they are that strong. Haven't dropped a single series yet. They're gonna play against IG. On the other hand, was out of a lot of people's expectation. We all I feel like the fans, the audience, the analysts around, we all kind of know that this IG they are gonna struggle a little bit after losing Kaka, their captain for since the beginning. And yeah, it just was out of my expectation too. I was also very surprised that they were actually doing so poorly, and I think they themselves are pretty surprised too.
Yeah, let's just talk about IG in a moment and go into PSG first. Obviously, losing the TI finals must have been a big blow to them. They've come back, as you say, very, very strong. 6-0 now, dropping 2 games, one to eHome and one to Asta. Are they looking very much like the team that we saw at TI, or is there a difference or an adaptation in their play?
I think it's still pretty much the same because we are still having the same patch. I think the biggest strength of LGD is always that their understanding of the game is exceptionally good. They are able to adapt to the game on the fly, and especially having someone like Sinkyo is always, he's always very creative, always able to find some sort of way to maximize his input in the game, which I really love, and which I think is what makes LGD really, really strong because it seems like everyone on their team has this ability. It's not just Sinkyu. And Sinkyu is definitely the one that is being most highlighted because he's always doing some very special or unorthodox things. But honestly, I feel like the entire team shares the same strength as him.
Would you say that there's been any particular player standouts that we didn't maybe see at TI? Because at TI, I think every player on PSG OGD looked very strong. Obviously, there was a lot of hype around Arme and nothing to say. Maybe Faith Beyond and you mentioned Zinq, they weren't getting the same amount of adulation as those players. Is it now more balanced, would you say?
Yeah, I feel like right now a lot more of the fans and audience they have been giving more credit to the players beside Ame and nothing to say because now realizing that all right, a lot of times when Ame, especially when PhD LDD just came back from the break and started their TPC, Ame wasn't looking quite good. He was looking pretty rusty. You can obviously tell that he hasn't touched the game for a while and he's still recovering. And that was when the 345, especially the 345, were really carrying LGD and putting the team on their back. So I think after those rocky start that they have, obviously they still won the games, but a lot of credits were given to the 345. So I feel like PSG right now they are not so reliant on nothing to say or Amy anymore. It's really about the entire team. I feel like this is where this team has kind of evolved into not so reliant on their superstars, but they themselves as a team are superstar on their own.
Would you say that Arme is now back in form towards the end of the season?
Oh, I would definitely think so. Yeah. I would say LGD looking pretty solid right now. The games are looking cleaner and cleaner. And those games where they find themselves in terrible late game situations, they were also managed to find a way to bring it back, especially the game versus RNG. I think that, if anything, just proves that they are in their top form right now.
I want to move on to talk briefly about what's going to come after the DPC. It looks most likely that PSG LGD are going to top this. I guess if Team Asta win against Team RNG, there could be a tiebreaker for top and PSG LGD lose to IG, but that seems unlikely. Then, therefore, we'll have a rough probable top four of PSG LGD, Asta, Real Never Give Up, and then probably eHome. Those four from the announcement that Valve will or already have made today will go to a single region tournament of cash and DPC points. Going into that tournament, would you expect PSG to firmly be favourites based on their current form, or do you think that they are at all challengeable?
I would definitely think that they are a tier higher than the next second, third, and fourth best team. I think PSG LDG looking pretty crispy right now. I think it's gonna take a lot of effort for the other teams to actually challenge them. I mean, they are already challenging them, but when it comes to best of three, you can clearly tell that LGD they are more experienced in taking the entire series down. So I would say PSG LGD definitely the most favorite team going into that.
Wonderful. Let's move down to the other end of the spectrum then on IG, who you mentioned struggling. You talked about Kaka being a big loss for the team. They've replaced him with Fade. We spoke about Fade a lot on previous episodes. I think Fade's a great support. Has he not shown what we used to see from him?
I feel like Fade, he himself mentioned about this in one of the interviews. He said that the biggest difference of him and Kaka is that he is more focused on pressing spells, pressing buttons. But Kaka, on the other hand, he's more focused on making shot calls. He's the one that direct the team in game and probably also outside of the game. So it feels like a lot of time you can see Fate. He's always on heroes like Io or some of the more passive post 4 that takes more farm or an enable role. But then if you look back to Kaka last time, he's always on those active heroes. The Lion, the Nyx Assassin, the Tusk, heroes like that. So I feel like this difference really hits them pretty badly. Because it feels like all of a sudden, no one is making shot calls anymore in the team. And no one is able to come up in the clutch moment to say, guys, let's do this move here. I'm going to make this kind of plays and we are going to start our fight like that. I feel like they are lacking this kind of figure in their team right now. And a lot of people have been saying that Kaka, he is the one that guarantees the floor of IG. And the others like Emo, JT, Fly, they are the one that determines the ceiling of the team. And now they lost Kaka, and it feels like they have lost their floor. You can never tell how bad they are gonna be. And a lot of time, even if they win, they are struggling a lot to do that too. So in this sense, I feel like IG, they probably underestimated how important Kaka is. But then again, it was Kaka himself that wanted to take a break. So there's kind of nothing much you can do, right, on IG side. You have to adapt to that. And it seems like the adaptation is looking pretty rocky right now for them.
Do you think that's fixable? Because they're going to be dropping down into Division 2 next season, almost certainly. Do you feel that they can... You would expect them to get promoted straight back up, but will they be promoted in a dominant fashion, in your opinion, or are these problems insurmountable?
To me, I feel like because we have 3 majors, I think it's probably okay for you to have a rocky start. Because we have always seen teams that had a very tough season bounce back when it's come near to TI. And I feel like a lot of, like the previous TI winners, they are always talking about how you need to pick the right time to pick in Dota. And I feel like if you're able to pick at the very end of the season, very close when you are picking at close to TI, I think that's the best for you. And for IG, they wanted a change. Kaka wanted a break. So obviously, that IG, they feel stuck with Kaka before. They feel like they can only go so far with Kaka, and they needed some change. This is what Emo said in one of the interviews. It says it's painful for them to lose Kaka, but they needed some kind of change. They are very stagnant right now, and the previous successes are all based on personal performance. They have to outplay the enemy very hard to be able to win games, and they don't want that anymore. They want to have a better system right now. That's why they brought in Fate, hoping to create that. So yeah, like you say, I feel like dropping to Division 2 could be a good thing for them. If that would help them find their own identity and come out with a new structure of winning, I think that's going to be worth it.
often when you see a team like this begin to falter, obviously we can point at struggles within the team, like Kaka not being there. Is there also a sense that the rest of China's stepped up? Do you think the rest of the China division is stronger this season than it was last?
Surprisingly, I do think so. Because I remember like a month ago we were talking about this, like, and it was say like Division One China is not going to bear, it's not going to be very competitive, right? Because we are seeing a lot of new roster, a lot of new players getting promoted to the Division One team, but somehow all these new players are able to bring us a lot of surprises, especially eHome. And also, to a certain extent, Vichy Gaming is also showing a lot of potential as well with their new squad. So I do feel like I agree with you. I think the entire region is stepping up. So maybe these old blood or old guards, are struggling a little bit because they are not really trying their best or not really being creative anymore. So I do feel like new bloods are kind of challenging the old guards now.
It's good to hear. Let's move in then to some of that new blood. Talk about Team Asta, actually. That's probably a bad segue because Team Asta doesn't have a huge amount of new blood in it. They're currently second in the division. They could feasibly be first, although, as we said, somewhat unlikely. How have they been doing, and what's been the secret to their sudden success?
I don't know, man. This thing about Esther is very, it's it's weird because they are always the one that you think they're gonna struggle, but when it comes to Chinese civil war, they always thrived. Especially with three of their members, Monet, XSS, and Boboka, they are all in Indonesia right now. So they're
All right.
spread across the world. They're not even in the boot camp. Half their team is in Indonesia, and they still manage to do so well. I honestly don't know what is the magic about them. This just feels like they have what it takes to go up against all these Chinese team. But one thing for sure is that the surprising factor is definitely their position 5. He's called Piqiu. If you translate this to Chinese, it's called ball. Basically a ball. But these two words are the names of his cats. So
Okay.
it's the names of his two cats together, and it built into his IGN. So I think this player is definitely showing a lot of promises. Actually, a lot better than what they used to had on Aster, which who was, what's the name again?
I have it
Uh
on the tip of my tongue as well. It was.
yeah.
I mean, it's another character name, so I can't pronounce it, but I know roughly what
Yeah,
it is.
no, it was the Esther Aries position 5. I couldn't remember. Never mind. But yeah, it was him. And then this current position 5 is definitely looking very confident, and he looks like he's making a lot of proactive calls as well. And then his laning is always solid. His playmaking ability has been pretty exceptional as well. So I think that's like the one of the biggest surprises coming from Team Esther's. Besides them having such a strong performance.
The big change they made that people might remember or might not is the change of White Album to Ori. Ori being one of the top mids in the region. How's that worked out? Is that part of the improvement?
On paper, I wouldn't say Ori is like one of the best mid players in China anymore, but it just feel like Team Masters, they are gelling together right now. I feel like China is a lot about the chemistry that you are able to build together as a team, more so than over relying on one player to overperform. So I think
Yeah.
Team Esther is that kind of team that the entire team together feel very strong. But if you separate them into individual player, they might not be top two of your choices in each of their roles. So I think this is one of the biggest strength of Esther. They are together, they are pretty strong, and they are led by Lanham as well. Lanham is still a coach, so I do feel like Lanham, yeah, he's definitely doing very well, and I know that he's having a lot of responsibility in the team as well, in terms of drafting, in terms of deciding what kind of style they want to play, what kind of heroes they want to play. Lanham definitely have a lot of power over that.
Lanham was obviously playing previously at TI. He's been a player for such a long time. Lanham is always one of my favourite players. How do you know how well he's transitioned into being a coach? I know some players can find that quite a struggle to suddenly not be playing.
I feel like Lanham is probably more comfortable being the coach, because I've heard that he was the play because they couldn't really find a position 5 that's up to their standard. That's why he was switched to the position 5. So, and then now that they managed to find Pichu, their new position 5, I feel like Lanham probably more comfortable on the back end side, deciding the big picture for the team, leading the team from behind. I do also feel like Lenham, he's probably more suitable for that kind of role right now, where he has more now that he has more experience and his mechanical skills are falling a little bit. So I like the transition, to be honest. He reminds me a lot about Mushi, also because they had been teammates back in DK 2014
Yeah.
for a long, long while. So yeah, I feel like Mushi and Lanham, yeah, very similar character in one sense.
Cool. Let's move on then to the other, perhaps unexpected team, but maybe not. Looking at the players in this team, as Raw never give up with Somnus and Chalice in that team, and as well as X Nova, they must have been expected to do well. Have they exceeded your expectations, or is this in line with what might have been expected from this team?
Uh, Honestly, I feel like when this team just formed, I believe a lot of us have a lot of expectation on them, especially Somnus, Charlies, and X Noir finally reunion and together back in a team. That's the old PSG LGD
Yeah.
trial back in tier 8 and 9. But yeah, it feels like they are still taking their time to gel. They still need a lot of time to find their chemistry. You can tell this by them, struggling against some of the lower tier team in this division. For example, LBZS, surprisingly dropped us and one series to LBZS. I think that definitely slow down or decreases their possibility of finishing top 3 or even top 2. So yeah, and also another fact that RNG, they were I think their coach Super was drafting in the early stage of the DPC, and then it switched over to God King. So now God
Okay.
King is the one that is doing the draft. So yeah, you can tell that they are still finding the perfect balance in their team themselves. So I would say this tour 1 or season 1 is probably where they are finding their chemistry. I believe tour 2 and tour 3 are where they are going to start coming in as a challenger at full steam.
Do you think they will be? Because obviously there's a lot of strong teams in China. We've spoken about IG maybe coming back, maybe Tour 3. We've spoken about Asta being good and PSG always being dominant. Is this a team that could challenge PSG's homogeny over the region, or is that probably a step too far?
I do feel like they are like one tier difference right now. So I think they're gonna need more time. I think they need to find their confidence as well, especially for God King. Because I believe God King he himself is having a lot of stress right now or pressure because he's up, he's teaming with 3 players that have a lot of success. Probably the most successful player besides the current PSG LGD. Chalice, X Noah, Somnus, these are really big names. So if he's able to overcome this mental block that he might have right now, I think this team is gonna go very strong. So to me personally, I think God King is the biggest X Factor RNG have right now. And how I think he's gonna be the one that decide the ceiling of this team. And the other cores are gonna be deciding the floor. And I think the floor is pretty high right now for RNG.
Okay, looking then to the final couple of teams, we've got EHOB and LBZS, who will be fourth and fifth, respectively. Uh, and Vici possibly could move. Well, Vici could move into those positions. This Vici squad's very young. You mentioned they've been performing okay, but currently in sixth position, it's not an incredible performance. What's going on there? Is it still kind of teething issues for new players?
Yeah, I think Vichy Gaming, they're lacking it right now. They don't really have they don't really have a very strong figure of a leadership in the team. So it's kind of like 5 dudes trying to figure it out together right now. So I do think they need a lot of time, and fortunately they do have a lot of that. It's just that I feel like while everyone is improving really fast, Vichy Gaming they might get left behind. So I think that's the biggest thing about them. They need to improve, and they need to improve fast to be able to get back to the major contender level.
Okay, that's interesting to hear. Okay, and then let's close up on DBT by talking about the games that are upcoming. We've got Vici Phoenix on the 23rd, Asta RNG, and ING PSG. Two of those are probably, I would say, locks. Would you agree Vici Phoenix is going to be a Vici win, and PSG will probably be IG? Looking then at the Asta RNG series, which will decide second and third in the region, depending on what happens with PSG or DD, most likely win. How do you feel about this matchup? What can we expect to see coming out of it?
I agree with you with the result of Vichy, Phoenix, and also IG, PSG, LGD. I wonder if IG is going to, is able to brings any kind of surprises here. But even if they do so, they would need Vichy Gaming to lose their games so that they can force a tiebreaker, which is very unlikely for two
Yeah.
conditions to happen together. And for Esther RNG, that is probably going to be the closest one. I do think Esther is looking a little bit hotter than RNG right now, because at least the Esther's games are looking pretty clean. And RNG, there's a lot of times where they are their games went into a very desperate situations, and it's either you or me kind of in situations, and it's really hard to tell. So I think RNG looking pretty rocky right now. So I'm gonna favorite Esther just a little bit more than RNG here. But then again, God King, like this guy, they have got 5 days of rest in between their DPC games. So I do think that RNG might be able to find something out, because God King, he's taking over the entire band pick right now. So he's going to be doing draft, the preparation, the decision making, and everything. I wonder if he's able to bring something new here, because in his previous interview, he said that he felt like his soul is already got completely drained. He has no more creative ideas anymore because the patch is so stagnant already.
Yeah.
So but then again, he still invented the Battle Fury on Bloodseeker, So yeah, I do looking for it. I do look forward to see what RNG can break out here. I believe this kind of X factor is going to be very interesting to see.
Is there anyone on either team that really needs to step up in that matchup that kind of maybe they're susceptible to a particular player doing well?
Mm, not really. I feel like maybe it's definitely, if maybe it's gonna have, if Somnus could have a good game or a good series, he can definitely be the one that just shine as the best player in the game. So I think if they're able to enable Somnus to his peak performance, I think that's gonna be pretty game breaking for this series.
Great, good to hear. Okay, let's move on then. Just talk about what else is happening in China. We have another tournament run by Intel, primarily the Intel World Open in Beijing. Not much of an open considering it's just Chinese teams, but we have obviously PSG moving to the second round, and Extreme Gaming beating Vici to move to the winner bracket finals. Extreme Gaming did win the lower division, but not well. Actually, they came second, didn't they? So not particularly comprehensive dominance of the lower division. Are they looking like a Division 1 team here?
In this tournament, this is their debut of their new roster. So they swapped 2 players. So O11 is in,
Okay.
and Low is also in. Low is from YBB, which is the um academy team of Extreme Gaming.
Okay.
So, and they are looking pretty good right now, because their first 2 series, both the 2-0 their opponent. But these opponents are not exceptionally strong. They are LBZS and Vichy Gaming, the lower
Yeah.
tier team in the Division 1. But that definitely tells you that being able to beat them convincingly tell you that Extreme Gaming, they are definitely somewhere around the third or fourth place if you were to put them in the current Division 1 right now. So I do like their potential a lot, and I like that they brought O11 in. So this is basically their old Vichy Gaming. And
Yeah,
yeah, I
pretty
do think
close to it.
they will be able to, bring some damage in the second season for sure.
It's the old Vici Gaming plus this low player who you mentioned, Low or Lou. Talk to me about him because he's a red link on Liquipedia. So me as a Liquipedia relier, I know literally nothing about him, and I imagine many other people don't. What do you know about him?
He had his breakout game against Extreme Gaming when he in the Division 2 period.
Okay.
So YBB was playing against Extreme Gaming, and they surprisingly took the entire series against Extreme, and he was the standout player there. So a lot of audience or talents refer him to the next AME, because it's like
Okay.
he's young. They share quite a similar hero pool. He could play the active hero. He could play the farming hero as well. And he's super young, super talented. So a lot of hopes are on this dude. Like
How old is
which is
he?
why. Sorry,
How old is he?
20, I think.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
I'm
pretty
pretty
young.
sure he's 20. Yeah, he's pretty young. So yeah, probably the next Amy, and we'll see. We'll see.
What do you need to see from him more? Because is it a case of, because a lot of young players get hyped up to be the next person,
Mm.
the next A, the next B. Um, is there more that you need to see from him, or are you beginning to be convinced?
I would definitely say I need to see more of him right now because we haven't seen Extreme Game go up against those LGD, Esther, or RNG just yet. They are going to do so very soon though
Yeah.
because they are in upper bracket final right now, waiting for the winner of LGD versus Esther. So that's gonna be their biggest challenge. Uh, and I'm definitely going to watch that very closely. So yeah.
Exciting stuff. Then let's move on to talk a little bit about what's kind of happening culturally in the Chinese scene. In the Western scene, we saw a huge reaction about the cancellation of the first major, kind of a lot of a backlash against Valve, and a lot of kind of quite heated discussion, I suppose. Was the same stuff happening in China as well, or was it a more subdued reaction?
No, surprisingly, there were like no reaction from Chinese scene at all.
Oh,
I was
really?
going through Weibo and then I don't see a single talent, maybe not talent. I don't see a single professional player talking about that
Okay.
or having a very big reaction about that. And I text my content creator friend in China and she said that the popularity of Dota it just has been dropping in China and people don't really talk too much about Dota right now. It's a very quiet season, which hits me quite surprisingly because DPC is literally happening. So yeah, I'm not sure what is happening in China right now. It just seemed pretty quiet, and it's a big surprise to me that no one actually openly discuss about this thing and talk about. Because in the Western scene, we all throw some kind of suggestion, right? But nothing of sort is happening in China. So
Is that because there's
I'm not sure
more
too.
support for the Chinese? Because like we have these tournaments happening in China. So we have the Intel one at the moment. That's a 300k prize pool. There always seems to be Chinese tournaments going on. Is it
Yeah.
they're less reliant on majors? Obviously, TI brings in a huge amount of money, but is it less? Because it feels like the Western scene kind of dies if there's not a major. Is that less in the case in China?
It could be. Yeah, it definitely could be. Also, another possibility I was thinking is could it be because they were so tired of traveling? Because all of the China players, they feel like the biggest victim, right? From TI. All of them got stuck in Romania or some other countries. They took so long to come back home. So they probably, to some extent, I don't know if this would be a good news for them because they could get some more rest. But I can't help to wonder, or to think about that. So maybe there could be a small reason to that. But yeah, like you said, there's definitely a lot of supports in the Chinese scene, a lot of big tournaments as well. And there's always going to be third party tournament for these big teams in China too. So maybe they are not too worried about having no tournaments to play at all.
It's also the first major is always tricky in China because it's right after Chinese New Year. Chinese New
Yeah,
Year being this year, the 1st of February. So I guess maybe a lot of them weren't particularly hyped about it anyway. So
true.
kind of secretly good news for them. Great. That's kind of all I had on my list to talk about. Is there anything else happening in the region that people should be aware of?
Mm, not really. I think it's been a pretty action-packed month of Dota right now. And then if you guys are missing those Chinese Dota, you definitely want to watch them because all of the series have been super duper close. Like you can't tell who's actually winning until the very last minute of the game. So which is that close.
Yeah.
And I would definitely encourage all of you to check those out. Or if you don't have the time to watch the entire game, the highlights are pretty epic to watch too.
A lot of people are saying at the moment that China is quite easily the strongest region. Obviously, we're not going to be able to test that for a little while. Do you agree with that? Has China even got even stronger than it was last season, kind of relative to other regions?
It does feel so. It does feel so because all of these young bloods are all of a sudden showing that they have what it takes to bring down these old dogs, especially Eom. Like this Shiro guy's suddenly become like a star player right now because of how he has been performing super well. And also Zil, the offlaner of eHome, he's a Malaysian too. He basically went from fighting in open qualifiers, trying to get to DBC into upper division team in China, and he's doing pretty well. It doesn't feel like he have to suffer through the learning curve at all because he's probably like the second best player in their team right now. So yeah, I'm pretty happy of how China is growing as a whole. Because I remember we did have this worry about, is China going to die?
Yeah.
Is China suffering from the lack of new blood? Right now, this season is definitely showing that's not true. They are
Great.
definitely stepping up.
Well, lots of new blood to look forward to seeing when we do get some international competition and lots more Chinese Dota to come. Thanks so much for joining me this week, LeonArthur. And we'll be back in a fortnight with another episode to kind of, I suppose, talk about the fallout of that DPC tournament. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter, me at Daniel Offen, spelled Daniel with an O-W-F-E-N, and LeonArthur at LeonArthur Dota. We'll be back very, very soon. Thanks for tuning in.